What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jacked Ramsays. I am Danny Marang, joined as always by Brandon Sprague. Brandon, the Blazers are on an 0-2 streak on the road on a 3-game road trip, dropping games, winnable games, in Charlotte and the next night again in Philadelphia to a short-handed Philadelphia 76ers team that did not have a Joel Embiid, a Tobias Harris, and of course a Ben Simmons, and then a Danny Green went down at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
How are we feeling?
Not great, Bob, to use the gif from Twitter from Mad Men. I think it's a tough time right now. It's 7 games in. I really don't feel like people are panicking, but I think people are starting to feel like, hey, you can't afford too awful a start in the Western Conference. You don't want to be buried early because then some of these teams are going to click, they're going to get better, and the last thing you want is to be at the bottom of that. So I don't think people are panicking, but I think people are noticing some real negatives with this team and some inconsistent play from a few others.
So a reminder, this is the Jacked Ramsays podcast. This is the mailbag edition that we do weekly. If you're watching along on YouTube, remember you can just go ahead and click the subscribe button. Help us grow. We're trying to get to 2,000 by Thanksgiving, and we are available anywhere you get podcasts. Jacked Ramsays. Download it, like it, rate it, review it. Do all of the things. We appreciate it. And yeah, they're in a precarious position, and the more I think about it, the more I'm getting more and more comfortable with the 47 win line. I know we're only 7 games in, but I'm like, yeah, they're going to drop some stupid games, and by the end of the year, everybody's going to drop stupid games because that's what this league looks like right now, whether it be the change in the contact rules and officiating, whether it be the new ball, whether it be things returning to normal and shooting backgrounds all being varied again. You don't have this flat black in some places. Some places have fans. As we've already seen, LA nightlife appears to be undefeated again for the NBA. I would say Miami nightlife appears to be undefeated again as things open up. So you're going to get some more variances thrown in the schedule that weren't there before, where it was primarily basketball. And at the end of the year, when everybody's chasing wins, I think everybody's going to have a game or 2 or 5 where they look back and go, oh, right, that stupid game in Philadelphia where they were missing all of their starters and they still let them score 113 points.
Look, it happens to everybody. Like, there's always a night in the NBA where you go, what? That doesn't make any sense. It's 82 games, a long season. I got to admit, I'm a little surprised. You feel more confident about 47 wins with a 3-4 start?
Yeah, because I'm kind of like, okay, we're seeing them work through some stuff.
Yeah.
But I think I'm on the lower end mostly for you're at 46, right?
I might be at 45. To be honest with you. Yeah.
But I think you and I are on the lower end. I've heard people just pumping gas on 50 plus, and 50's a big number, man. Always has been, always will be. That's a lot of games to win. That means you're a very, very good team. Maybe not elite, but once you basically cross that 50 threshold, you're a good team. You cross 54, 55, you're a great team. I think that's it's like looking at a score in the NBA. 20-point per game score is good. 24, pretty damn good. 27, 28 and above, you're like, that dude is a bucket getter.
Yeah.
We surprisingly don't have a truckload of questions about Damian Lillard, which I think, no, just letting it go.
Thank God.
Are you worried?
More people? No. You're not, right?
He's earned the benefit of the doubt. More than anything, you know where I stand. I need to take off my hat and put on my tinfoil hat. I think something's wrong with him physically. Whether he wants to admit it or not,
Why can't he admit that? I'm curious because I don't think that's a bad way of looking at it. He could be injured. Why not just? He's
always downplayed stuff. He never makes excuses. I mean, you heard him in the press conference last night, or if you didn't, he basically says, "I look for adversity because it allows me to show my character."
But I don't. He doesn't. He's earned so much respect around the league that when guys like that say, like, I'm dealing with a finger injury right now, but I feel like
he was dealing with earlier this year that nobody really talked about.
But why not? I don't think a guy like that is viewed as an excuse maker. I think people would just say, oh, that sucks. He played in the Olympics. He's starting out the year a little banged up.
Yeah, and I don't know. That's just kind of how he's been. But again, this is me just pulling strings. That's because that's the only thing that really makes sense outside of a slump. But this isn't just any slump. We talked about last night in the postgame. How many times have you seen him blow by? How many times have you seen him like really accelerate, decelerate, like look like Dame? And not just the shot making, but just like the physical profile of Damian Lillard.
You know, the other thing I was thinking about too is it doesn't excuse like some of the shots he normally makes that he's now missing. Is there any part of what he's doing on the court that changes maybe the approach he's taking offensively?
Oh, 100%.
He's had some really good games with assists, and he is like, I feel like he's doing a lot of really good things for this team, but yet he just can't do the one thing they kind of need him to do the most, and that's score the basketball efficiently.
Yeah, that's really something as far as like what to look at for what's going on and kind of how it's all phrasing together. But overall, I don't know how much of that is really impacting it.
Right.
So I don't.
We're kind of grasping at different things
because
right?
nothing really makes sense.
No, it doesn't.
That's the reality. And
unless you think it's payback to Neil.
Listen, that is a tinfoil conspiracy hat that is on very, very tight, but also you're not the first person to bring it to me.
Dude, I'm going to make a tinfoil hat and I'm going to leave it in my podcast closet and I'm going to put it on maybe the next mailbag.
Tinfoil time?
Tinfoil time. I like that.
There we go.
Brought to you by Reynolds Wrap. Like that's what we need to present.
It'll keep your pizza cold.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Well, we've actually got a very diverse set of questions today. Madam Ocasio, at Madam Ocasio on Twitter. Shout out the long time. Why omit the Dame Nurk pick and roll from the game plan in the first place? What are your thoughts?
I think that's a great question. That's tough to have an answer. I think some of that is I'm new, I'm different. I'm going to bring this element that you didn't have before. Sell job. Like, I think that's kind of what that narrative was.
This is what I do different.
This is why I am a different and maybe a better option here. But I'll give him at least credit. Like, he did sell that. I don't know why he needed to. I don't think people were looking for that, but he's gone back to the well. Like, he knows that it's the best thing to happen for this offense. So while I can't fully answer that question outside of just selling it that he's a new guy, at least he was willing to adapt and kind of fall back in line with what was working really well for this team.
So I'm inclined to believe what you're selling here. Like that's how you change it. But love
a good but.
There is, who doesn't? Remember that whole thing we talked about where guys who have been in the league for 9+ years and been ball dominant players don't change? Still don't change. Notice how the offense, and it's not like, Damian Lillard just refuses to, or he just can't. No. Go do any job for a decade and then have somebody come in and tell you, nah, you know that thing that you were awarded and built up for because you're really good at it? We want you to not do that.
Yeah.
That doesn't work. Especially with the guys who have egos the size of states. That's just not a thing. Now, you can get some buy-in, but how much buy-in have you seen from CJ McCollum?
Good amount.
When things
you don't think you're seeing a lot of buy-in
on the offensive end? Oh God, no.
Oh, interesting. He's having a good. He's having
a great statistical. Well, good
buy-in.
Year.
I guess buy-in from the system.
Yeah,
no, I think he's gone. He's gone back to who CJ McCollum is. Like,
let me get down buckets.
This is how my bread is buttered. I get buckets.
Listen, and they've needed it. And I saw some people, man, why did the Blazers go matchup hunting last night against the 76ers? Because the other offense sucked and blew at the same time. That's why. Why didn't Nurkic get any shots? Because he was lazy.
Yeah.
Because he wasn't screening and rolling. Because he wasn't diving. Because he wasn't making himself available. Because he was getting his ass kicked by Andre Drummond.
Yep.
That's why. Cove, that's a different story. Like I said last night, I think there's a bit of a protest action going on there because...
Is he going Marcus Smart? Silent Marcus Smart?
I definitely... Okay, if you are going to peg somebody on this team to have a Marcus Smart type idea or thought right now, who on this team would it be?
Are we talking about actually like that would say something or just the idea?
Just the idea, because certain people have ideas and certain people say things. I'm not looking at really anybody on this team outside of Nurk as much of a talker.
It's hard to not pick Cove based on the start and the amount of shots he has not gotten with Ant's emergence, Nas shooting a little more, Norm's normal amount of shots, and obviously Dame and CJ. It's hard not to pick Cove because of those factors.
Only so many pieces of the pie. And again, no matter what egalitarian system you run, go look at those Warriors teams. The dudes, they get the shots.
Yeah.
That's how it goes. And everybody always wants to get more, and we've drilled down so much on Nurk contract year, Anfernee Simons contract year. We've kind of like forgotten Cov contract year, and he's 30-plus years old. This is his last real deal, let's be honest. He's a 3-and-D wing type, big-bodied wing, who's a help defender who I think is going to play for probably 30, at least until he's 35, 36. Like, he doesn't really rely on crazy athleticism, some quick twitch, but he's not. Yeah. I see him more in the Rudy Gay mold than, somebody who really relies, I should say post-Achilles Rudy Gay.
Yeah.
But as far as why omitting the Notre Dame pick and roll in the first place, get back to the original question, it's because you have to put your stamp on this team. And you can't just put it on the defensive side because that stamp is going to wear off, as we've seen. That was not a wax stamp. That was one of them cheap, water-based stamps. It's already kind of peeling off.
I hate to be the lazy host, the guest host here, co-host with you here, but I got to do it. What have their defensive numbers done after the last 2 games?
Womp, 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 womp. They have fallen off a cliff. That's just kind of how it goes.
That's great. That's great.
I mean, they aren't 29th in the NBA bad, but as far as where they were,
but if you fall sub 20,
they aren't quite there yet.
Okay, but if you approach that territory, you're 20 to 22. They're 19th. You get a little higher than that, and your offense got worse. I can't imagine that that's a great recipe.
So, remember everybody who was singing the Chauncey's taking his foothold stance? I wonder if that tune is still holding, or if it's still they're still shaking out the cobwebs of Terry Stotts at this point.
I think 7 games is still not enough for that crowd.
We're 13 games short. Stop making freaking noise about this.
I know. I'm with you here. That's why I didn't overreact one way or the other. This is gonna take some time, but I think for the people that are, it's habits, it's the former regime. And then tout when it's a good night. I think for those people, it truly has to be a 25, maybe even 30 game sample size before maybe some of them either admit they're wrong or take it back a little bit.
And here's the thing. There's so much noise in these first 7 games because there have been multiple blowouts that you don't really have normalization at all. So we really don't have a great understanding of where things are right now because they have a 30-point blowout. They have a 30-point loss. That's just... that's just kind of how it goes. So it's going to be interesting to see how they stack up at the end of things. But there are some noticeable trend changes before we get into a few other questions. They are taking a truckload more corner threes. They are also giving up more than anybody in the league. They are getting gashed. The good news is they are getting it back in the same regard. So, but... flip side of that is they're taking less and making less from above the break. Really, Anfernee Simons is the only one who's getting them that, and CJ, even though he's cooled down the last couple games. They are doing a good job of limiting shots at the rim and contesting them when they get there. So there are some positive signs and definite changes in philosophy. Now, how well those things are or aren't translating remains to be seen. I think is kind of where we fall with that stuff.
Well, and I think we've also seen examples of, even with the slight tweaks, a lot of it is predicated on effort. And you've had just some games, the effort it's just not there. Did you see what Doc said after the game?
Oh yeah, we prepared basically for what they do, and
they hedge. No one hedges anymore. We knew what to do. We worked for 5 minutes before the game to make sure we do it because it's not seen anymore. I thought that was interesting. That's just backhanded shot, oh yeah, we knew what their defense was. It's kind of unique to the league, but we know how to beat that. And
nobody does it anymore because everybody runs some form of drop because it's more, or it's not more conservative. It's easier to control. I can't think of the word I'm trying to find there, but the baseline for it.
Yeah, and I think that's one little thing of coaching. That's and I don't particularly have Doc very high. I don't have him as high as other people, but for Doc Rivers,
a title will do that.
A title will do that, no doubt. But for Doc Rivers to come out and be like, yeah, we knew what they were going to do. We worked on it for 5 minutes in practice, and we got ready.
Does Doc know Terry's gone? He doesn't have to talk a bunch of shit? For anybody that doesn't know, that relationship, no, it wasn't weird. They did not like each other. Yeah.
Well, good for Terry.
Yeah, no, Terry, remember the whole CJ McCollum thing on the roster card?
That's right, and he wouldn't let him play. He was like,
Doc was like, no.
Screwed it up.
Yeah, no, there was a bunch of petty stuff that went on back and forth. It was glorious to see. This question was sent right before the road trip, but it actually applies kind of. I don't think they meant it before the road trip, but I think it more applies on the way home. This from Dustin Wilshire at Dustin Wilshire. Aggressive upcoming schedule. How do you see this playing out? So they have the Cavs tomorrow. If you're listening to this, we're recording here at noon on Tuesday. I'm gonna probably release it Tuesday night ahead of Wednesday's game against the Cavaliers, who have looked very good defensively. They play stupidly big. Lowry is just under 7 foot. Mobley is 7 foot. Jared Allen is 7 foot. The two guys there in Mobley and Allen are incredibly mobile, long, and springy, and do horrible things to your offense. They can't score, but they are a long, weird team to deal with. Then the Blazers have a very good-looking so far Pacers team, and then which version of the LA Lakers shows up? Is it the Carmelo MVP campaign? Is LeBron James playing? Is Russell Westbrook holding on to the ball? But each of these teams, you know what they all have in common, Brandon?
What's that?
They're all huge.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad our 4-guard lineup's ready to go, baby. We're going to run them right off the court. You want Evan Mobley on Ant? I dare you. I double dare you.
I saw some people mad that Ant was having trouble playing the 4 last night, and I'm like, what do we guys, he's 6'4", 6'5". Like, what are you... And he weighs $195. Like, what are you mad at? Be mad at Neil Olshey for not signing a bleepity-bleeping forward. Don't be mad at Ant.
I was at least happy that Chauncey said basically,
he had to get him on the floor.
I have to play this kid. Like,
I kept him on the bench maybe too much in Charlotte. I can't afford to do that today here in Philadelphia. And you know that I know that we'll get to it at some point, but that kind of goes into the whole, I don't know how you watch this team. You don't go, if I can make this small tweak, which may seem big to most people, maybe I can get back some value that adds to the areas we're a little weaker in, and say, hey, we're rolling the dice with a 22-year-old. He's going to play more minutes. He's going to have a couple games that are stinkers. He's going to make some mistakes here and there.
He's going to win you some games.
But he's also going to win you games or keep you around in a lot of games.
Think about this. They are 7 games into the season. In each of their wins, he has been an integral part of that.
Oh, absolutely.
If I told you that he was going to be this important to this team right out of the gate, would you have believed it?
Not this important, no. No, that would have been higher than expectations I had for him.
Yeah. And so I think Chauncey has seen that and gone, okay, this guy's got to be out on the floor. I know you don't like play win-loss, but when you're looking at these games, when we came into this road trip, I said 1-2, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. And I ironically, I picked the Philly game as the game they were most likely to win.
You said that was I think we have you on the record, like, of the 9, because I went down the 9-game run, and I think you said Philadelphia was the most confident win for you in that stretch.
Yeah, I figured that they could play straight up with Embiid and do some things, and they...
What if I told you Embiid and Harris were going to be out? What you would have?
I mean, logic would have been like, "Oh yeah, Stone Cold lead pipe lock, boy, and ratchet that one up, baby, send it in."
Right.
Which is hilarious because the line last night was 219 and they crushed that. So,
yeah,
good times. Yeah, it's a weird league, man. But overall, I look at the upcoming games and I go, okay, cool. The thing that the Blazers deal with horribly, size and athleticism. Great.
Yeah, but the good thing for them, at least in this matchup tomorrow,
there isn't a ton of shooting they have to cover.
Well, you're buying at a low spot, right? Like, a lot of people are not maybe going to give them as good a chance. I think the beauty for them is they're playing against length and athleticism. The benefit for them is they have a lot of experience over this team. And so, again, difficult matchup, tough. But if these vets want to turn this around a little bit and get back to 500, you've got to almost play mind games with these youngsters.
Mistake-prone young guys.
You've got to trick them and not allow them to pull you into the style of basketball they want to play.
Which they play a weird, creepy kind of style, but it's also really, really fun. Garland, Sexton, Mobley, and Allen are pieces I think, well, I know they want to build around Garland and Mobley. Everything else is kind of a wait-and-see situation, but... we'll see. Dustin Wilshire also had a follow-up question. Worried, but feel like if Dame can get right, the rest will fall into place. Does that make me crazy? He can't keep missing shots at this pace, right? I've seen more than a few people say, well, if Dame just hit his shots, they'd be like 5-2 or 6-1. And
I don't like to play that game, man. That's a butterfly effect. That's not good.
Cool. Well, also in those same games, the bench isn't going to go nuts because Dame's going to continue getting usage and things are going to slow down and play to his style. And Chauncey's less likely to keep the bench out there, who's playing incredibly well. Yeah. So there's trade-offs to this stuff.
Yeah, and that was something I was going to bring up if nobody asked it was we both are in the same boat of thinking Dame's going to turn this thing around a little bit for himself, and that's great. I do wonder what the ripple effect is if Dame's shooting more and playing more aggressively to the style in which we were accustomed to seeing the last few years.
From the 12 assists down to the 7 assists?
Because the 7 assists, and then how many shots are you taking maybe from Ant? How many shots are taken away from maybe Norm or CJ or Rocco continuing not to get looks? Like, there is an impact with that. You can't just say, well, if Dame plays well, they're undefeated. Well, that's not how life works, right? Yeah. So I think there's an impact. I don't know how great or how long that will last, but there's an impact to Dame getting it going, no doubt.
They will be don't get it twisted. They will be a better team when Damian Lillard plays better.
Yes, no, I'm not saying they're going to be worse.
That's unquestionable. No, I've had some people say this is kind of the same thing to me, and it's like, that's not what I'm saying. But you can't just say, well, if.
Right.
That doesn't work. You can if in one hand and
if the Chiefs had a healthy offensive line, they wouldn't have gotten obliterated in the Super Bowl.
Yes.
But we can't play that game. They got hurt. It is what it is.
So you kind of have to work through that. But he could keep missing shots at this pace. I hope not. It will be a terrible, terrible travesty if this was like a legitimate case of the yips, like a Markelle Fultz kind of thing. Like that. No. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying that would be just absolute insanity. Joel at Mr. Julius asks, what's your favorite Blazer hat? Folks, I don't know if you know this, but I have a lot of them.
Favorite Blazer hat? Man, I don't know. I kind of like the tradition. I'm kind of a dad hat guy now. Like the fitted hats, I like fitted hats, but there's only a few of them that really fit me because I have a weird shaped head. I got big ears. My forehead's tiny, so like part of it sticks up a little too high for my liking.
You get the poof at the top?
Yeah, I got the poof.
Not a problem with the meathead here. So
see, you got a good head for it. So I'm gonna go traditional red, pinwheel in the front, dad hat.
I've got, let's see, I've got a Mitchell and Ness throwback.
God, they got some sick stuff.
They do, and it's the old pinwheel, the vertical,
Oh, I love that one. Yeah.
That's definitely up there. You don't see me wear it on the show too often, or any of the shows too often, because I don't wear it too often. I definitely didn't wear it on Outsiders just because I didn't want to wear it outside any time between, December and June in Oregon. I think I only own like 3 legitimate white hats anymore, and that's one of them.
You know what they say about people that wear white hats?
What's that?
They like white.
Huh. I don't. I almost no white, but it was just so pretty. I was like, oh god, like when I open the closet, it's like the Ark of the Covenant, just back and forth. It's that white. Then I've got that one, and then I've got honestly the red snapback that I wear all the time. It's probably one of my most comfortable hats. Like my wife got me, I don't know, 10, 15 snapbacks over like the last couple of years, probably more than that, to be honest. The typical, hey, saw this at the mall. Here you go. Got this for you. Love you.
She went to the mall. That's dope.
She'll. I mean,
not a lot of that going on right now.
No, and even pre-COVID, I won't say where, but she was a manager of a big store for a long time there. So
okay.
Very.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the new unis?
Yeah, that's right. We haven't talked about those, have we?
Never brought it up.
I had seen a sneak peek of them, and I knew the gist of what the design was, but I hadn't seen it like on anybody yet. And I was like, leaning into the plaid. Shout out the Jacked Ramsays podcast. We are sponsored by Plaid. I like them. I think I would have changed the fonting on the Rip City to be not the 2000s era. I think that's the only thing I really would have changed. Otherwise, I like them. I like the fact that if you're going to integrate a sponsor, there's no more stupid green. Like the StockX sponsor matches the uniform now.
Yeah, at least Bitcoin is in the background of it.
Yeah, you're hiding it.
I have a Dame. I just bought a Dame Portland black jersey, like the traditional road. Yeah. And because I couldn't find the red Rip City like that,
which
or
is
the red
glorious.
Portland one. That's my favorite jersey they have. But they were sold out, so I got the Dame black one, and I have the BioFreeze
Oh,
label.
You found the ones from last year?
Yeah. I got it last year. That's
okay.
when I'm getting back into like wearing a couple players that I like. I like to rock their jerseys in the summer. Like just put a jersey on and go skateboarding.
What, you still skateboard?
I mean, I longboard.
Okay.
Sorry. I shouldn't have said skateboard.
Yeah, no, I was like, are you aware that's going to kill you?
or like hiking or a bike ride. Like I like to rock a jersey.
100%.
I'm going to get that new Giannis one, their city edition.
That's a glorious jersey.
That thing is beautiful.
So Nike has screwed up a ton on these jerseys over the years. This year, I think for the most part, they did a good job. And the big thing is they went, number one, throwback, which is always a hit. And they kind of riffed on it.
Yep.
And then they got the ribbing. Like all of the designs is in the ribbing now, in the piping. And that, like the Bucks one with the stacked blocks just looks.
I love it.
So good.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the things I'm hunting is a signed Giannis jersey for
signed Giannis
for the man cave. Yeah, I leave that for like very, very select few players.
So here's my thinking: get a Giannis jersey, rock it for a while, go to a game, see him in the.
I can't do that. You know that. I can't ask.
Why?
Because it's on the pass. I can't do that.
What if it's not media Danny? What if it's like fan Danny?
I will say this: if anybody there sees me doing it, I will be summarily thrown out.
You might, but also local columnist did it with his nephew at a Steph Curry playoff game. And
that's right. I forgot about that one.
Yep. Look, it's not rare. That does happen. I know, like if you're a beat writer, you shouldn't do it. But if you're like us, you're like fringe people. Like I may or may not have gone to a Knicks game, and I saw a friend in the back, and he was a huge Knicks and Melo fan, and he was too shy, and I was like, "Yo, Melo, huge fan right here. You want to take a picture?" And he was like, "Oh, cool." And so my friend asked and shot a picture for him.
Okay, I might have to work it in.
Innocently.
Listen, I might have to work it in. So, back to this. That was a hell of a derail. That was pretty good.
Sorry.
No, it was awesome. I mean, I was like, oh God. This one I've gotten asked a few times, but Bob Bradstreet sent it in on Twitter at Bob Bradstreet, Bradstreet Racing. When does Nance to the starting lineup for Covington start to ramp up a bit? I think it's ramping up already.
Yeah, I mean, how many games do you think they give Cov before they're like, maybe you're better suited to come off the bench? We'll let Larry play here.
Number one, he's not, because they need Cov to be Cov. They don't need another guy who like touches the ball a ton in the starting lineup. That's part of that. Number two, Cov's the older guy who's paid more. Yeah. But people are going to clamor for it because it's backup quarterback syndrome.
Right.
Cov started off like dog water last year. Let's
really bad.
Let's not get it twisted. He could not hit anything.
Yep.
And people are like, what? They gave up 2 first-round draft picks, and then he had a career year. Welcome to the NBA, where averages are average for a reason. You can have some really bad times, some really low times, and then you average it out over the season.
That's what Chauncey said. He said, I went through stretches. Dame is not what I'm worried about. I'm worried about our defense.
Yeah, because consistency of effort and execution is easier to control. Again, I am going to drive this home for 82 games, and by then you are going to kill me. Process over results. Mm-hmm. Because the results will come as a matter of the process. If the process is trash, it does not matter. So, but I understand what people are saying. Cov is struggling. Nance they just look like a better team with Nance on the floor. He has the juice. Like just the way that he plays just makes sense. Cov, you don't really notice unless he does things because everything he does is outside the box score. Nance does that, but also he has some offensive creativity where interior playmaking where he's already bonding with Cody Zeller on short rolls and on little tuck passes and drop passes and working with Anfernee Simons in the pick and roll, which, oh boy, is that becoming a ton of fun.
My favorite lineup for them, I say this not having looked at the plus minus of a group, but my favorite group to watch so far is when it's Dame, Ant, Larry Nance, Cody Zeller, and Nasir Little. That's my favorite 5.
That turns into our bench plus Dame unit, which coincidentally enough, I can grab here from Cleaning the Glass, which I have open. Great
website, by the way. Go subscribe to it.
It is. Shout out Ben Falk. Just so we're clear, Brandon.
Yes. Oh, no. You're going to tell me it's like a minus 18, aren't you?
Plus 40.2.
hey, my eyes actually matched up with some stats. I'm like, this group is good. And then when they mix Dame out and bring CJ in, I'm kind of like,
There's only 40 possessions of trackable data, non-garbage time data, but it is a 132.5 offensive rating, and it is a 92.3 defensive rating. It is by far and above their best lineup right now.
So how many minutes are the averages together? Because we need to up it.
It is what I am calling the good vibes offense.
It is. Everybody feels like they're A-okay saying, Dame's going to shoot the most. Yeah. Yes. Everybody in that group knows. Like, Ant's like, I'm gonna spell Dame a couple possessions. Nas is like, I'm gonna hustle, get boards, play defense.
When I get out and run, it's mine.
I'm gonna dunk it. Larry, I'm gonna go clean the glass and do what I can
Larry
to get
things.
a hand. Yeah, and Cody's the same way. Like, everybody knows perfectly on that role what they're supposed to be.
And if you look at that starting unit, what do you have? A bunch of guys who are trying to figure out their roles, who want more or are looking for something else. Yep. And in that next unit, everybody's like, nah, I'm good here, man.
What did you just call it? You just called it the
good vibes offense?
The good vibes offense. And it's funny that you said that. Maybe I stole this from you because you've said this before, but I just watched this game with my wife and I said, it's just this group has such better energy working together where, look, the starting lineup has its moments. I won't refute it. But they've had some real moments this year where I'm like, they just look like a group that doesn't want to play together.
Oh, the body language last night was awful.
It's not great. It's just not great.
There was a lot of,
yeah,
head cocked, hand up in the air, staring. This is, bleepity bleep and bleep. I saw Larry basically get out there with the starting unit and play some of that small ball center the other night against, was it Charlotte? And you could just see him like, what is this crap?
How did we get worse with these two guys on the floor and the other two guys off the floor?
It's weird, man. It's weird. So that unit, the only real shortcomings they have is they're a little sloppy with the ball. They've got a higher turnover rate, which makes sense. It does. Nas gets a little, lost puppy with the ball sometimes, which
a little too much energy.
But I love it. Every game it just gets tightened up, just channeled in a little bit more. Nance tries to do some things, and then Cody just keeps getting hit in the face. They don't generate a ton of free throws, and they don't force a ton of turnovers. But other than that, the shooting, it's almost 70% effective field goal percentage. Their offensive rebound rate is 35%. They are keeping everybody off the glass. They only allow 9.1% on their offensive rebounds, and their free throw rate defensively is 8.8, which means they aren't fouling anybody.
So one, it's an athletic enough group to not be in a position where you get desperate and you get lazy, so you're hacking down. Two, the rebounding thing is great to hear because when you watch them, it's Cody, it's Larry, it's Nas, and sometimes it's even Ant. You got 4 or 5 guys that are crashing the rebounds.
How many times have you seen this year where Ant or Nas fly in out of nowhere and grab a rebound? And you're like, whoa, that's right. I forgot. Those two are really bouncy.
Yep. So they just kind of cover all the bases of what you're looking for. To me, it's more of a question of what can you do to unlock that starting unit because they're not as good as the Dame plus bench unit. And the turnover thing, look, no excuse. I thought Ant had a couple possessions. He got a little lazy with the basketball last night. You can live with those moments because they're teachable moments, but their turnover numbers are awful. Yeah.
No, that's this whole idea of like, oh, it's a new system and the starters, I'm like, the bench is playing for the other for the first time and they're playing together much better. Yep. So which one is it?
Right.
So that's what leads me to believe that there's some more mental or psychological things that are going on with that starting unit with where guys are in their careers than there is with that second unit. Yeah. So we'll get out of here on this. This is going to be like a dual Ant question. And we'll kind of work Evan's question here. This Ethan M says, WTF is going to happen with Ant. Dame and CJ aren't going anywhere and someone's got to pay him. Marcus Aaron sent in a long DM here, but I'll whittle it down. Is basically, I know it's early, but I maintain that with this pace of play, he'll undoubtedly get a large contract. He's talking about Ant here. Or we think it'll be in the Gary Trent range of $80 million. What does that mean from a salary cap perspective? even if we trade CJ and Cov for Simmons, doesn't change our cap situation, right? And then Evan, shout out Evan M, asks, question for today's pod: what needs to happen between now and the deadline to increase CJ's trade value? Can anything be done? So I want to tackle this real quick on the money side, real quick, because I know you
don't
want to dive into this. If
you're my Jonah Hill, go ahead.
Listen, if you're going to do this, and let me pull up the exact the numbers just to kind of make it work, just so I can walk through it all. So if you're going to trade CJ, number one, you want to wing because you want to create space in the guard in the backcourt, right? That's ultimately the goal here. But if you're going to do this, if you can send additional salary out, then you can lay the tax burden down a little bit more, or you could at least make it more palatable. And one of the things that I've maintained is if you're going to go into the tax, then you better damn well have a good reason. Well, if you're trading for Ben Simmons, that seems to me like a good reason, Brandon. So if you send out CJ and Cov, that's, let's see, next year, I think CJ's at 35 and Cov is unrestricted, but you're looking at basically 10, 12. So you're basically looking 40 to 45 between the two of them, between the next 2 years. Straight up, that can't be done. The 76ers would have to send about $2.4 million back. But this would cut approximately $8 million from the tax bill for the Trailblazers, moving Cov and CJ for Simmons. That's just under the salary cap. Then you still have room there to begin with, and you have bird rights to re-sign Anfernee Simons.
Okay, so can you help me with this? I somebody asked me this morning on my radio show if he was. So is it? I know they can go above, but he's unrestricted.
No, he's restricted. They
have
have full control to match him, which is what they need to do. And this is why they really need to trade CJ or Norm, because they have the ability to go over the cap to maintain him, and it allows them to have control longer.
Now, is there another stipulation that I feel like I might have read about Norm, since he just signed, he can't be
December
traded?
15th. So he can't be moved until December 15th. It's 90 days removed from a deal. But
are they going to do it? Do you think he'll make a move?
He has to. Financially, Brandon, they have walked this line so bleeping much as far as like what they're going to do. Oh, we're a tax team. Yeah, you're a tax team by like $4 million. Like, and then the second you had the opportunity, you cut bait. What's funny is they wouldn't have had to do that had they not had the Anderson, Varejao, Andrew Nicholson contracts of just raining stupidity hanging over the top of them for 7 years.
Don't get me started on those two situations.
But contractually, this saves them roughly $8 million when you add the additional $2 million coming back. So let's say, and this is why this is the first domino to fall. Yusuf Nurkic has an expiring deal, which they do not have matching rights, but they do have bird rights. They can go over the cap to re-sign him. But if you want to have matching rights, you could trade him to, I don't know, Orlando for Mo Bamba?
Oh my God. Would you cry if you got your guy Mo up here to Portland to play with your guy Anfernee Simons?
100% would, but knowing more likely that it would be Ant traded for Mo Bamba, and then Ant went into back in Florida, back at home. And I would feel sorry for him, but he'd be thrilled to be back home.
He could not make that. You can't do that.
No, not in a million years.
You cannot allow this thing to be let out of the box and let us see what this 22-year-old is right now and go, we're going to ship him out for a center.
To NBA purgatory.
To NBA purgatory. And we're going to take back Mo Bamba. Like, you just can't sell that to the fan base.
No. But I think you could do it with Yusuf Nurkic.
Which I would be okay with.
For anybody out there who thinks I'm serious, I'm mostly serious. Bamba's always been talented, but he's been kind of a head case.
Yeah.
Sound familiar?
Is his name Yusuf or is it
Mo? Same thing. It's Yusuf Bamba. But again, you would have the restricted rights to match on Bamba, which would allow you, again, it kind of recreates a bit of a 2016 scenario where you've got a bunch of guys where you can match, but it allows you to string things out and then kind of figure things out from there and gives you a softer reset while also being probably safer with the cap.
So your lineup could be Dame, Norm, Ben Simmons, Nasir Little, Mo Bamba.
Tell me, Brandon, does that sound significantly more athletic?
And then you bring Ant off the bench.
Ant, Nance, and Zeller off the bench.
and let Tony Snell get some run in the corner because apparently he's going to hit every shot he shoots.
The man knows corner threes, Brandon. He knows corner threes.
One of those threes he shot, I'm like, oh, and then it went swap.
So
and I'm like,
snap the net, and you're like, oh, that's just how you shoot. Okay,
that's just how he shoots, man. That lineup's nice.
It's fun. It's fun, and it's a hard shift, and it gives you different ways to play. And I think what we've seen already against multiple teams is that the Blazers can only play one way, and it's guard heavy. If you get a guy like Simmons, I know we've hammered this a ton, but they need somebody. If it's not Simmons, it's got to be like Gordon Hayward. It's got to be somebody 6'7", 6'8" with size who can create. Like they just don't have that at all. So. I think that's kind of something to look at as far as like the money possibilities. It's not impossible to keep Anfernee Simons if you trade CJ McCollum. There's multiple dominoes need to fall in order really for the team to be competitive going forward, unless something falls in their lap.
And I know it's kind of a dead horse topic for like the last 5 years here, but if you're moving somebody, like that's unfortunately the obvious guy that you have to move.
A combination of Nurkic and Sprague, Nurkic and Covington.
You're gonna trade me now?
I was like, I'll include my co-host as well. God, no, I know you got to get out of here, and it was on the tip of my tongue, so I was like, we're gonna make sure we wrap here. So we're gonna trade you out. We will have you guys covered for the pregame against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I have secured Justin Rowan. If you didn't get to catch him from the beginning of the season when we talked about Larry Nance Jr., he is the official host of the Cavs podcast, the Chasedown podcast, actually sponsored by the Cavs. Imagine that, a podcast being liked by a team. But we will have him on in the pregame.
Dare to dream. Dare to dream 2022.
We'll have him on to preview what the Cavs have done, what they look like, what to expect, and mostly just swoon over Evan Mobley. And then he'll kind of ask us what the hell is going on with Portland, which I'm sure will be fun. But thank you all so very much for all the questions. You can find us on social media at Jacked Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. You can email us, jackedramsays@gmail.com. That will do it for the mailbag pod. Remember, like, rate, review, subscribe. If you're watching here on YouTube, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Help us get to 2,000 by Thanksgiving, and I'll end up doing a show on the Peloton behind me so you can watch the big fat guy choke to death while doing a show. For Brandon, I am Danny. We will catch you guys tomorrow for the pregame. Until then, take care and bye.